Emily Fuller is a young mother living in the United States. Not long ago, Emily brought her 2-year-old daughter, Grace, along on a trip to visit relatives in another part of the country. On a previous visit, the family had gone for a walk through a local cemetery, and little Grace grew fascinated by the headstones she saw along the way. At some point, they stumbled upon the grave of a girl who had died nearly a decade earlier, a girl whose name was Grace Olson. Now, every time Emily and her daughter come back to visit family, little Grace pleads to return to that cemetery to see her friend, the friend she calls Dead Grace. Here's what Emily captured on camera during their most recent trip.
Can you show me where she is?
It's like this here. That's Grace.
Oh.
That's Grace.
Yeah.
Was she a baby?
Yeah.
Little Grace confidently guides her parents through the cemetery, heading straight for Grace Olson's grave as though she's done it 100 times before. At first, Emily figured it was simply her daughter's excitement at spotting her own name on a headstone, but she says that days after returning home from the visit, Grace hasn't stopped mentioning her friend. In a follow-up update, Emily revealed that she tracked down Grace Olson's mother and reached out to her. The woman was deeply moved by the footage, and was apparently comforted by the idea that her daughter's spirit might somehow be watching over little Grace. So, what do you make of all this? A mother was spending time with her little boy in bed when he suddenly went quiet, turned his gaze toward a vacant corner of the room, and pointed at a photo of his late father, who had died not long before this moment.
Who's it? Who is it?
She immediately reached for her phone and began filming, watching as her son shifted his attention back and forth between the photograph and that bare corner of the room, almost as though he could see someone standing right there. Here's what the camera captured.
Who's that? Who's up there? Who is it? Who is it? Who?
The boy continues glancing between the photo and the empty corner, as though he's responding to a presence that only he is able to perceive. His mother couldn't offer any explanation for what triggered her son's behavior that evening.
Who is it?
The origins of this footage remain unclear, and very little has been revealed about the family since it surfaced. But many viewers who have seen it are convinced the child wasn't staring into an empty space at all. Their belief is that he was seeing his father. Was there something genuinely there, or was it nothing more than a young child's imagination running wild? That's for you to decide. This next clip was sent in by a viewer named Connor M, who was completely by himself when the incident took place. The street Connor calls home is one where residential break-ins happen on a fairly regular basis, but even with that kind of environment surrounding him, nothing in his experience could have readied him for what unfolded inside his own walls. Connor gives a brief account of what went down that evening. In his own words, "I was alone. My daughter was spending the night at her mother's place, and my dog was out in the yard. I'm still shaken up by this." It's the middle of the night when Connor picks up on the sound of movement coming from his kitchen. Here's what the camera recorded.
If anybody's here, I'm calling the cops. No! No!
A knife slides off the counter and launches itself directly at Connor. Fortunately, it misses him, the blade coming to rest dangerously close to his feet. Though had he been standing even slightly nearer, this footage could have ended in a very different and far more tragic way. Already on edge from worrying about a potential intruder, encountering this on top of everything else left Connor absolutely horrified. As he puts it, when it comes to forces you can't even see, there's simply no way of knowing when the next kitchen knife might hurl itself at you for absolutely no explainable reason. And honestly, that's a deeply unsettling thought. A photographer reportedly captured this footage shortly before he passed away. The exact circumstances surrounding the recording are unclear, but when his family went back through the video, they stumbled upon something deeply unsettling buried within it. Somewhere in an underground tunnel at an unknown location, the man can be seen moving through the darkness as though searching for something. Then, without warning, he spins around and takes off running in a panic. The footage cuts out just moments after that. When those final seconds are played back in slow motion, a shadowy figure with a human-like shape briefly appears standing in the background, though its features are far too unclear to make out. The man's younger brother eventually handed the recording over to an investigative group, hoping they might shed some light on the mysterious circumstances of his sibling's death. After an extensive search, investigators managed to trace the location in the video to a tunnel situated near a highway, yet despite their best efforts, no evidence or clues ever surfaced to explain what actually took place there. A large number of viewers who watched the clip became firmly convinced that the strange entity glimpsed toward the end was somehow tied to his death, though ultimately that remains nothing more than speculation. What's your take on what really went down here? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. At Felix Memorial National High School in the Philippines, a group of students were running through cheerleading routines during practice when a girl named Yuna appeared to freeze, visibly unsettled by something at the far end of the room. The school has a reputation for being haunted. Teachers reportedly play prayers over the speakers at specific times throughout the day. A student there once tragically took her own life, and staff regularly warn others to stay away from the rear of the building, where the strange activity is said to be most intense. Their camera was rolling during practice when it caught all of this. It's Yuna who first picks up on something off, standing completely still and gazing up toward the second floor while her classmates carry on around her. Up on that second floor, a door swings shut on its own with no one near it. Then, from behind one of the pillars, a pale white shape appears to peer out. Not just once, but several times, as the door begins to open again by itself. So what exactly was lurking up there? A gravedigger was working in an old cemetery when something brought him to a sudden halt. Just a short distance away, a shape draped in white fabric stood completely still. Its eyes were locked onto him, wide, unblinking, and unmoving. He initially convinced himself it was just the shadows messing with his mind, but the longer he stared, the harder that explanation became to hold on to. The figure appeared to have emerged from one of the nearby graves, and he was certain he was looking at a pokong. That was all it took. He cut the recording short and abandoned the job entirely.
From the job.
In August 2021, at a gym somewhere in Asia, a security guard keeping watch over the surveillance feed noticed a man walk through the front doors. The man seemed to be going through a casual warm-up routine at first, but it wasn't long before things took a strange turn.
Es que pasaron cosas muy extrañas, la madre, hasta una máquina se movió. Vea, mire, explíqueme eso, vea, dos cuerdas y... Yo qué vas a ver, mami, y la otra quieta, o sea, no podemos decir que es el aire, y ni que hay ventilación, ni nada de esas vainas.
Eso es como
y en plena luz del día, ¿quién dice que estas maricadas pasan en plena luz del día? No, mire, la luz.
Something was clearly yanking at the ropes, and the lights in the room had begun to flicker. The man brushed it off, probably reasoning that broad daylight meant there was nothing to worry about. But right as he was getting ready to start his session, something completely unexpected stopped him in his tracks.
La segunda toma, ahorita le muestro la segunda toma, y hay cosas que no se ven en la primera. Échale ojo. Ahí, mira eso, mira eso.
Uy, ¿eso qué pasó? ¿Por qué eso se
esa
mueve?
Esa vaina es pesadísima, eso es pesadísimo.
¿Sí?
Sí, parece eso es una energía muy mala.
¡Ay, Dios mío! ¿Qué le pasó?
Mamá, mire.
No, Dios, no, eso no es normal.
When the security guard went back through the footage, he was every bit as rattled as the man in the video. So what actually went on in that gym that day? A paranormal encounter? Or could there be another explanation? Nobody has been able to say for certain, and the mystery remains unsolved to this day. Over on TikTok, a woman by the name of Ashley Lynn uploaded a video explaining why she's starting to think her bedroom may be haunted. She had a security camera set up in the room, and one day while she was filming a TikTok downstairs, she suddenly picked up on an unusual sound. Her first thought was that it was her pet Coco, but when the noise repeated itself shortly after, her unease started to build. Footage from her bedroom camera captures the closet door swinging shut on its own, sending Coco into a visible fright. Then, just seconds later, the door moves again, opening and closing without anyone near it. Ashley says she genuinely cannot explain what caused any of this. In her video, she makes it pretty clear that the whole ordeal shook her up so badly that she seriously thought about packing up and leaving. The video was originally posted back in April, so with any luck, she's since found somewhere new to live and put this whole thing behind her. What really gets under your skin is the pattern of it. If a draft or a shift in air pressure were responsible, you'd expect a single movement, not the door doing it twice. Now, skeptics could certainly point to something like a loose latch or a string rigged out of frame. Even so, the way Coco visibly startles both times makes the whole thing that much harder to shake off. It was April 13th, 2021. Every camera he owned was rolling, and his objective couldn't have been more focused. Track down the man in the green cloak. But passing through a small village along the way, things took an unexpected turn. An elderly man agreed to speak with him, though only off the record, away from the cameras. He had information about the cloaked figure. The man apparently couldn't speak. Nothing threatening, just deeply odd. Occasionally, this silent stranger would show up at an abandoned house that had sat empty for 2 years, the very same house this YouTuber was preparing to explore.
Пока я переносил сюда все вещи. По словам этого местного жителя, здесь не живут уже как 2 года. В этом сарае, как он мне... О, с мешка. В этом сарае, как мне сказали, был забой для скота. Опа. А куда делся гроб?
The local also warned him about the house near the well, which happened to sit close to where he'd pitched his tent. Something sinister lurked in that area. A girl who had once drowned in the well had previously lived in that house, and her entire family perished not long after she did. According to local legend, after midnight, she would climb out of the well and make her way back home. And it didn't end there. Demonic entities, he was told, would trail behind her up from the depths, unleashing chaos inside the cursed building. That night, he resolved to stay inside the house and find out whether any of it was real.
И дожидаться 12 ночи. Уже 21:01. Попробовал все же. Электричество, да, здесь реально нету. Расставил камеры. Одну камеру здесь. Это с ночным режимом. Одну GoPro в этом углу. Фокус пропал. Так. Одну с ночным режимом здесь. GoPro там. Так, все, друзья, буду дожидаться 12 часов. Сейчас 23:50. Осталось... Опа.
At 11:50 p.m., chills were already crawling across his skin. The quiet felt like it was pressing in on him. Every groan the old structure made echoed unnervingly through the stillness. 10 minutes to go. Then the clock hit midnight on April 13th.
58 минут. Пока все тихо. 59 минут. Опа. Апреля 12:00. Пока полная тишина. Все камеры я еще не включал, все. Вот сейчас что-то стукнуло.
Initially, nothing, just dead silence. Then, a faint noise, something like a creak, drifted in from outside. His pulse spiked. He silently hoped it wasn't the cloaked man. Then, the shed door began to inch open. He could feel his heartbeat hammering in his chest. The old villager's words came flooding back to him. Mirrors trap paranormal energy. He switched on every camera he had, desperate to record whatever might be out there.
Надеюсь, это не тот мужик. Фонарик. Кто там? Охренеть.
Then, at the edge of his vision, something shifted past the windows. He wasn't sure what to believe anymore. Maybe his mind was unraveling, but it felt undeniably real. Without warning, the front door burst open with a tremendous bang. The atmosphere turned electric, like a current had passed through him, and a sharp pain shot through the hand he was filming with. Обычно вся паранормальная энергетика возле зеркала, либо в зеркале. Видео вроде реально сейчас двинулась книга. Или это мне показалось? For the following 30 minutes, the house fell into an unsettling stillness, broken only by occasional heavy thuds from within the walls. He cut the lights and switched to night vision on his cameras. Then, at 4:03 a.m., the knocking began, first against the windows, then moving to the doors.
Током ударил. Охренеть. Вот, друзья, на время я на улице лучше. Что-то мне здесь реально не по себе. Полчаса, как уже полная тишина. Пока что ничего не происходит. Пару раз только вот здесь грох и в дверь.
As abruptly as it had all started, it ceased. Dawn crept in, and the house sat completely still, as though the night had never happened at all.
Свет, все прекратилось. Думаю, что сюда еще раз нужно будет вернуться, но уже с ЭГФ. Вот тот колодец. На свой инстаграм я всегда загружаю фото с новых видео, поэтому, друзья, подписывайтесь на мой инстаграм, ссылка будет в описании, а также на группу.
He knew he had to return, but he wouldn't be coming back alone. Next time, he'd have proper ghost hunting equipment with him. As for the well outside, though, that was... When a home becomes truly haunted, there is one golden rule you should never violate. Don't attempt to drive out a spirit yourself unless you're an experienced paranormal professional armed with the right prayers and protections. Wire, the man at the center of this chilling account, threw that rule straight out the window. For a full 2 months, a sinister presence tormented his household, casting a shadow of fear over every corner of their lives. Finally, pushed to his breaking point by terror and rage, Wire decided to confront the entity head-on. He bellowed ancient incantations he barely had a grasp on, desperate to put an end to the suffering. What happened instead was that his defiance stirred something far more dangerous, and a quiet nightmare spiraled into a waking horror.
So freaking, I just woke up and there's freaking noises going up. Dude, guys, that is really creepy. If there's any spirits in here and you want to communicate with me, I hope you know that you are not allowed in my house. No spirits are allowed in my house.
The moment Wire issued his ultimatum to the spirit, the entire house went berserk. Paranormal chaos erupted all at once. Furniture launched across rooms, dishes exploded into pieces, and the very walls seemed to cry out. But that violent surge was just the opening move. In the weeks that followed, the haunting intensified dramatically, as though the entity drew power from Wire's resistance. By choosing to stand and fight alone, he didn't liberate his family. He poked a sleeping monster awake. The takeaway here is a hard one. Never go to war with something you can't even see. Reach out to a seasoned paranormal investigator or a member of the clergy instead. The woman shared a video on her social media that began innocuously enough but took a deeply unsettling turn. It was well after midnight when she and her husband noticed something off about their neighbor's house. Worried, they decided to head over and make sure everything was alright. What started as a simple gesture of concern quickly became something far more disturbing.
No me acuerdo de su nombre. ¿O le hablaremos a la policía?
No, hay que ver si contesta.
Su garage.
No estuviera ahí, no está en el carro.
Ah, mira, yo creo que ya prendió la luz. ¿No? ¿Es tu lámpara? No, a ver, bájala.
Tócala un poquito más fuerte.
Ay, le tocas tú, me da miedo.
¿Ah?
Le tocas tú, me da miedo. Uy. Uy, tiene una ahí. Tiene como, se ve como una cabeza.
She knocks on the door several times but receives no answer. Moving toward the window to peer inside, she suddenly goes still. There in the darkened interior, a face hangs motionless among the shadows. It's impossible to determine whether it's actually the neighbor or something else entirely. Just a face, frozen, staring out from the dark. Eventually, they manage to reach the resident by phone. The elderly woman comes outside and confirms her car had been left unlocked, but what she says after that makes the whole situation even stranger.
Se pueda sacar, creyó que había algo. ¿Ya?
¿Quiere que le llamemos a la policía?
Y es la puerta, esta puerta ya no trabaja porque la rompió. Y la policía no hace nada, ¿sabe por qué? Porque está la cámara y dice que no puede hacer nada porque no he reportado con la cámara. Y la cámara la tiene en el teléfono mi sobrina. Y dice que no mira a nadie, pero el hombre sigue entrando. Me ha roto la...
The older woman goes on to explain that her home is regularly broken into, and that she frequently spots an unfamiliar man coming in through the garage. She's reported it to the police, but no cameras ever capture anything. No evidence ever surfaces, just imagination or something that refuses to be recorded. The woman who witnessed all of this assumed the story was over, but before long, strange things began occurring inside her own home. Then, one night, she decided to go live and document everything in real time.
Contigo durmiendo. Sí, está mi esposo. Mis dos hijos están aquí. Los ronquidos que están escuchando son de él. No hay nadie en la casa. Hoy. Se escuchan también pisadas en el techo, güey.
During the stream, unsettling sounds fill the bedroom. wood groaning, footsteps crossing the floor, and knocking at the door.
Pero no mames, gente, hace rato yo quería llorar porque tenía mucho miedo, neta. Cabrón, no mames. Puta madre. Ay, no, gente, yo creo que le voy a hablar a la policía porque neta que no. Y es que no están tocando mi ventana. No está tocando mi ventana. Es la puerta del cuarto la que están tocando. No mames. Hay alguien afuera de la puerta del cuarto, güey. Pero no es un puto humano. Ay, no.
She does her best to hold it together, but the tension in the room keeps building, and what comes next rattles her even more.
Porque ya se recurrieron mis hijos. Entonces...
No, te pistaste aquí.
One of her children, still fast asleep, starts speaking as though responding to someone who isn't there, leaving her completely shaken, and the night was far from finished. Without any warning, the lights begin flickering in an erratic, uneven pattern, almost as if something is controlling them. She's overcome with panic. Some of the sounds could point to an intruder trying to get inside, but how do you account for the lights behaving that way? The footage left not only the family disturbed, but everyone who watched it too. Many are convinced the house already had a presence within it, while others believe the encounter with that motionless face at the neighbor's window may have set everything in motion. Deep in the night, a couple noticed something odd just outside their house. A brief, blinding flash, gone so quickly they nearly talked themselves out of believing it was real. They decided to pull up their Ring camera footage to investigate. That's when a shape appeared, hovering just above the roofline of the house next door.
Go back, son.
It lingered for no more than a moment before disappearing entirely. So, what was behind that sudden burst of light? And what exactly was sitting on that roof? A man from Germany says he made a grave error the day he brought a Ouija board into his house. Ever since, he claims, life has been nothing short of terrifying. Late one night, an unsettling sound pulled him from whatever he was doing, and he immediately reached for his phone and hit record. What unfolded in front of that camera is enough to send a chill straight down your spine. See for yourself.
Leute, ich schwöre euch bei Gott, diese Tür von dieser Uhr, ne? Die ist eben einfach aufgegangen. Ich wollte mich gerade schlafen legen, auf einmal ist die aufgegangen. Die ganzen Tage ist die nicht aufgegangen und jetzt gerade hat die sich einfach geöffnet, Digga. Bro, ich kack mir in die Hose fast. Wenn hier irgendwas in diesem Raum ist, dann macht diese Tür auf. Wenn hier irgendein Geist oder so drin ist und du mich hören kannst, dann mach diese Tür auf. Bro, ich schwöre bei Gott, ich schwöre auf meine Mutter, hier ist keine Schnur oder so. Nicht, dass ihr denkt, ich verarsche euch, Bruder. Guck mal. Guck mal. Hier ist keine Schnur, Nix, ich schwöre auf meine Mutter.
Moving entirely on its own, the clock's hand was then violently wrenched free and hurled to the ground in the most unsettling way imaginable. The man was completely shaken, and by the following morning he had made up his mind. Both the Ouija board and the old clock had to go. He carried them outside and set them ablaze, desperate to put the whole ordeal behind him.
Dann mach diese Tür auf.
If any updates emerge in this man's story, we'll bring them to you in a future episode. In the meantime, drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think was really going on here? Nestled in Mineral Wells, Texas, the Hill House has earned a reputation as one of the most bone-chilling haunted destinations in the entire country. Boasting well over 100 years of sinister history, the property has been tied to underground gambling operations, concealed criminal activity, and a number of deaths that were never properly accounted for. One evening, a group of friends decided to rent the place out on a whim. The majority of them were complete skeptics when it came to the paranormal. Their whole goal was to expose the haunting as nothing more than a hoax. That plan quickly fell apart when a woman named Victoria stepped into one of the bedrooms and started taunting whatever might be listening, laughing and goading it into proving itself. Within seconds, the unthinkable unfolded.
As you can see, she was yanked off the bed. This was not a fall. And then they ran out. We're going to rewind that and we're going to show you in regular screen.
Right there with witnesses watching, Victoria was abruptly hurled off the bed, as though something unseen had seized her by the legs and dragged her forcefully to the ground. The room erupted into chaos and the entire group bolted out in a screaming frenzy. Later that same night, somewhere around 3 in the morning, another member of the group, a man named Drew, decided he'd take his own shot at confronting the spirit. He marched into that very same room and called it out as a coward, but the instant the words left his mouth, an invisible force shoved him violently backward. As the group scrambled to escape, the door crashed shut behind them, its knob rotating on its own as if someone, or something, was still turning it from the other side. So, what do you think was truly lurking inside the haunted Hill House? On the popular YouTube channel Fourth Wall, the team receives word about a house with a deeply sinister reputation. According to locals, the entity dwelling inside was so malevolent that it took the lives of 3 out of 4 family members who once called it home. The only survivor was their 10-year-old son. Reportedly, his parents had sealed him inside the garage in an effort to keep him safe from whatever evil lurked within. That all happened 2 decades ago. Not long ago, a paranormal enthusiast decided to look into the property for himself, curious whether its dark reputation was truly deserved. He positioned a static camera in the very room where the family had been discovered all those years before. What his camera recorded left him completely shaken. Heavy, unexplained pounding echoes through the garage doors in the background, but the banging isn't even the most disturbing part. If you study the footage carefully, a shadowy figure is visible standing in the doorway, seemingly just watching in silence, as though it's waiting for something. The moment the investigator notices this shape in his footage, he gets out immediately. The property's current owner, now convinced something sinister has taken hold of his home, contacts Fourth Wall and begs them to look into it. They dispatch a cameraman to spend the night and document whatever unfolds, and things go sideways fast. At one point, a disembodied female voice cuts through the silence, though her words are impossible to make out. Rattled, the cameraman scans the entire space and confirms what he already feared. He is completely alone. He then decides to set up static night vision cameras both inside and outside the garage, where 20 years prior, the young boy had been found unharmed. Once everything is in place, he exits the property entirely to let the cameras run without any human presence. When he reviews the footage afterward, what he sees stops him cold. The garage doors begin thrashing violently, and a pale, ghostly shape drifts past the narrow gap beneath one of the doors, slowly making its way toward the room where the family met their end. The outside camera picks up the same ferocious rattling, though the figure itself doesn't appear from that vantage point. So, could this be the same force responsible for 3 deaths 20 years ago? And did those parents lock their child away in that garage, knowing full well what they were up against? Ultimately, that's a question only you can answer. TikTok creator by the name of Kylie Johnson has built up quite a collection of security camera footage on her page, but one clip in particular stopped me in my tracks. On more than one occasion, Kylie had been fast asleep next to her husband, and somewhere around 4 in the morning, the bedroom camera picked up something that's hard to shake off. As the two of them slept, the light just outside the room went dark without warning. Then, only seconds later, a shadowy figure wearing a mask drifted past, throwing an eerie silhouette across the wall. The whole thing is deeply disturbing, especially knowing the house was supposed to be completely still at that hour. When Kylie pulled up the recording the next day, she was absolutely frozen, covered in goosebumps and unable to look away. Now she's left with one haunting question: who or what was moving through her home in the dead of night? The TikTok profile shown here is run by a couple who are jolted awake in the dead of night by strange noises coming from within their own bedroom. Shaken and disoriented, they reach for their phone and hit record. What the footage reveals is genuinely disturbing. Pay close attention to every detail. After everything we just witnessed, it's difficult to argue that nothing out of the ordinary was present in that room. Certain viewers are convinced it wasn't just a single entity either, pointing to multiple faint orbs that appear to drift across the frame. Could whatever this is, one presence or many, be drawing energy from the couple's terror? We want to hear what you make of it. Drop your thoughts down in the comments below. Security cameras captured this footage inside an office building late at night, the kind of space that takes on a completely different atmosphere once the last person walks out the door. Staff members who reviewed the recording said what it showed was unsettling enough that more than a few of them genuinely thought about skipping work the following morning. The building had been completely vacant. No personnel, no activity, nothing stirring at all. Just the surveillance system running in the silence. It starts with a desk lamp strobing through the doorway of an unlit room. Then without any warning, the entire room floods with light. A few seconds pass before a set of desk drawers slam open and crash shut on their own. The lamp starts strobing again. More lights snap on across the space. A red door drifts open by itself. Then the desk jolts a second time, the lights begin their erratic pulsing once more, and right as the door moves again, something else enters the frame. A tall, dark figure stretching outward from the darkness. It doesn't match any shadow that should exist in that room. So what are we actually looking at here? A cascade of electrical faults hitting at the worst possible time, or something that doesn't have such a clean explanation? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let me know what you think. A hotel worker had been picking up on something unsettling during his overnight shifts, but on one specific night, just as he was wrapping things up, the situation completely unraveled, and the security footage captured every second of it.
No, pues ahí voy de entrando, vea, dame cuidado. Y entonces paso yo a coger las sábanas, comienzo a contarlas porque me pidieron 10 sábanas. Oh, entonces pues, no es que yo estoy ahí parado y todo eso, y estoy recogiendo las sábanas, y se me abre la puerta y ya yo arranco. No, yo no sé, pero yo... Y se cayó una cosa.
Without warning, a service cart begins rolling down the corridor by itself. Nobody nearby, no rational explanation in sight. But as if that weren't enough, things escalate. Two doors fly open simultaneously, slamming wide with force, as though something unseen had just blown straight through them. The employee immediately loses his nerve and bolts, and as he's sprinting away, yet another object starts shifting on its own, almost like whatever was there was responding directly to him fleeing. When it was all over, the man didn't hesitate in his conclusion. As far as he was concerned, what he experienced was completely paranormal, and from that point on, he has flatly refused to set foot in that room without someone else by his side. This unsettling clip was posted online by a man who had spent the night camping with a group of friends somewhere in a mountainous region. They had been casually filming the ambiance around their campsite while hanging out together. It wasn't until he went back and reviewed the footage later that something unexpected caught his eye. Pay close attention to what shows up. Visible in the background of the video is a faint pale figure that bears a striking resemblance to a ghost draped in white fabric, hovering not too far from where the group was sitting, almost as though it were sharing the same space with them.
Same area.
According to the man behind the camera, he had no idea anything unusual had been captured until he rewatched the recording. He admitted he was too shaken to bring it up with his friends that very night. It wasn't until the following day, once the group had made it back to their base camp, that he finally worked up the nerve to tell them what the camera had picked up in the darkness. The following clips were all recorded inside a French household where a woman has been living alone with her young son and their pets, and where unexplained activity has apparently been building for weeks. The phenomena don't stay in one room, they don't happen at predictable times, and according to the woman, the phenomena seem to be starting again after what she describes as a stretch of quiet. One night, the woman heard a strange sound coming from the boy's empty bedroom while the child was in the living room watching cartoons on a tablet. Even the family cat seemed to hear it. The tabby walked directly toward the dark room, calm but focused, heading somewhere with intent. Watch. Inside the unlit bedroom, a rhythmic banging could be heard coming from somewhere in the darkness, while a teddy bear appeared to move in a way that many viewers later described as unnatural. The camera lingers on the room as the sound continues, making it difficult to tell whether the movement was caused by something ordinary or something else entirely. What unsettled many people most wasn't the toy itself, but the behavior of the cat. Animals are often believed to sense things humans cannot perceive, reacting to sounds, movement, or changes in an environment long before people notice them. And in this footage, the tabby doesn't appear frightened or confused. It walks toward the room without hesitation, as if it already understands something the people behind the camera do not. Some viewers believe the footage captured a genuine paranormal moment. Others argue there may be a logical explanation hidden somewhere in the darkness of the room. But whatever caused the banging that night, one thing is certain. The reaction from the cat is what continues to leave people unsettled. Another incident happened while she was getting ready to shower late at night, and her son was already asleep in his room. She heard something in the hallway, a mechanical rolling and a rhythmic banging against the bathroom door, and when she opened it, she found this. She documented everything methodically. She found the remote control sitting on the stairs, its batteries dead for days. Her son had left it there for her to replace, meaning no one had been operating that truck, and no one in that house was awake to do it anyway. She lives alone with her child and her animals, and she plans to have the house purified, and that in itself tells you how seriously she's taking this. On another night, she woke up again, this time by her child's electronic toy drum set that had switched itself on in her son's bedroom, flashing and playing music while the child slept right through it. Take a look.
À bientôt pour un nouveau concert. À bientôt pour un nouveau concert.
As she moves through the room to shut the toy off, something small and bright moves quickly across the frame near a stack of cardboard boxes. A white orb-shaped light that travels fast and low before disappearing. Skeptics would call it dust or a lens artifact, and that's a reasonable position. Fast-moving specks caught on phone cameras at night are common enough to dismiss. But the toy turning on is the harder thing to rationalize because she says it's not the first time, and her reaction when she opens the door, "Ça recommence?" suggests a woman who's past the point of being surprised and now just exhausted by it. Some people familiar with cases like this point to what's called a poltergeist pattern, a term that comes from the German for noisy ghost, and historically describes phenomena that center around children or households under stress, characterized by objects moving, electronics activating, and escalating disturbances with no clear origin. Whether that framework fits here or not, the toys in this home do seem to have a habit of coming to life on their own. Then, the activity crossed a line. In a later clip, the woman was watching a video on a projector in the dark when she began hearing a series of sharp, unexplained taps coming from somewhere in the room she couldn't identify. Watch closely. A drawer on a small wooden table slid open on its own in front of her, smooth and silent. And then, the moment she turned her back after closing it, the door behind her slammed shut with real force. She gasped, opened the door, turned on the hallway light, and walked toward her son's room to check on him. That's when it escalated completely. A sudden thunderous barrage of heavy sounds rushed at her from down the hallway, like something charging directly toward her, and the camera fell. The footage ends with the phone on the floor pointing at the ceiling, and the only sound is her breathing, fast, shaking, and ragged. She said that days can go by in this house without anything happening, and then everything hits at once, and that she's not afraid so much as she is worn down by it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this because there's a version of the story where the explanation is mundane. Faulty toy batteries, a drafty hallway, an old door latch, and a version where a single mother has been quietly sharing her home with something that's been getting louder. Now, in this next clip, a man decides to explore American cremation after hours, a facility his friend works at, someone who had already warned him that strange things tend to happen around the furnaces when they're in use. He'd gone in knowing the lights shut off automatically at a certain hour, and he walks through the dark space with only his phone's flashlight cutting through the dark, past the heavy metal retorts, past the urns sitting on tables, talking himself through it calmly enough. But then the audio starts acting up. A wave of static and distortion bleeding into his narration, even though he claims he didn't hear any of it while he was standing there. That alone would be enough to make most people turn around. He keeps going. Watch.
I have a friend that works that he would see and hear things coming from these furnaces when they're burning the bodies. So when I'm walking through here, they usually put the urns out to send to the families. So when I'm walking here at night, I walk right by these urns that they put on these tables here. And then I come down, freaking out. Fuck. Crazy.
As he holds the camera on a shelf lined with urns, the lid on a white marble patterned one lifts, twice, accompanied by a sharp metallic screeching sound that fills the room. His reaction is immediate and visceral. He swears, the camera swings toward the ceiling, and he runs. He doesn't stop until he's back in the office hallway, breathing hard, trying to gather himself. But it doesn't stop there. While he's hiding in the office, a faint, low breathy moan is caught on the recording, something he wouldn't have even known was there until he reviewed the footage later. And then, outside, standing in the parking lot with a cemetery sitting just beyond the fence line, a high-pitched female voice is captured, soft and quick, cutting through the night air. Some believe locations like this, places where the recently deceased pass through daily, carry a kind of residual energy that doesn't always leave with the body. Others think the EVPs point to something more active, something still present on the grounds. If you listen closely to that second voice especially, it's hard to explain away as ambient noise. So what exactly was in that room with him? The following clips were recorded by people living in the same quiet suburban neighborhood, a place that, on the surface, looks completely ordinary, but where residents have been noticing things that are difficult to explain away. It starts at night, on the front porch of a 2-story house. A man in a light-colored shirt steps out onto the porch, pauses, and looks around, almost as if he senses something. The porch light carves out a bright circle in the darkness, but the far left side of the porch stays deep in shadow. Pay close attention to that corner before he turns and walks back inside. Watch. Standing completely motionless on the left side of the porch, partially obscured by the railing and a pillar, is a tall, dark, human-shaped silhouette, and it doesn't move, not once. The man walks right past the area where it stands, and it just stays there, still as a statue. Some viewers think this is what's known as a shadow person, a term used broadly online to describe dark humanoid figures with no discernible features that seem to exist just outside the peripheral, present, watching, but never fully materializing. Skeptics argue it could be a cutout, a mannequin, or even a person deliberately standing still. But here's the thing. The caption attached to this footage says both the person filming and the neighbor appeared to notice something at the same time. That kind of shared experience is hard to stage. In broad daylight, his neighbor walks the place where the figure was seen in the daytime, proving it wasn't something as easily explainable as a Halloween decoration.
Okay guys, my neighbors aren't home, but as you can see, there's no Halloween decoration. So, it wasn't that.
She trails off toward the end of the clip, voice dropping just slightly, as if she herself isn't sure what conclusion to reach. Now, for context, this is the same neighborhood. Victorian homes, an old stone church next door, a block that carries the kind of age that tends to attract these kinds of stories. And she goes looking for answers. Listen closely.
Okay guys, here's your update. They are not home. Every light in the house is off. I am gonna walk over here though, just to see if there's any kind of decoration or what we could have been seeing over here. And not much. This is our driveway here, but it's just a church on the other side of here, so, and an empty parking lot, so there's no decorations. There is that fence, but you could see that in the video if I'm remembering correctly. And here's the other side, and that right there is the window I was looking out of. So I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I will talk to them as soon as I see them, I make a promise. I would like to point out though that we do live in an area surrounded by old Victorian homes, and that's an old church. Over here is another Victorian home, and our neighbor's house is actually a restored Victorian home. They basically gutted the whole thing and built it over its old bones. And then our house is a new build. And that's really all I got, friends. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. We'll figure this out together. I don't know. Maybe it's all the haunted houses around me, but I'm sure there's a logical explanation. Well, I hope there's a logical explanation.
She walks the perimeter of the unlit house at dusk, pointing out the window she'd been watching from, checking for decorations, looking for anything that could explain what she'd previously seen, and she finds nothing. No props, no staging, no easy answer. What's striking is her demeanor. She's nervous but composed, laughing slightly in that way people do when they're genuinely unsettled and trying not to show it. She points out that her entire block is made up of old Victorian homes built over their original bones, with a large historic church sitting right next door, exactly the kind of environment where, according to a lot of paranormal researchers, residual energy tends to accumulate. Whether that explains a motionless shadow figure on a porch, or something unidentifiable sitting in a yard in the middle of the day, is another question entirely. She ends the clip saying she hopes there's a logical explanation. And honestly, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what that explanation could be. Because between the figure on the porch, the object in the yard, and a neighborhood full of old houses built over older ones, the pattern here is getting harder to dismiss. In the following video, a woman was simply recording what should have been a peaceful moment, a waterfall deep in Brazil, surrounded by nature. Nothing unusual, just a calm scene meant to capture the beauty of the place. But her camera caught something else. Watch closely.
Muita água, muita força. Uhul! Ih, caraca! Tem uma coisa ali. Caraca, apareceu um cara ali no meio da água. Mozinho! Mozinho, você viu o cara no meio da água? Caraca! Ali, mozinho!
For just a brief moment, a dark, shadowy figure appears to rise from within the waterfall itself, before suddenly vanishing back into the rushing falls as if it was never there. Viewers have slowed the footage frame by frame, and the shape is hard to ignore. To this day, no clear explanation has been able to fully account for what was captured. Some believe this could be a jinn, entities said to inhabit wild, untouched places like forests, rivers, and waterfalls, especially in parts of the world where such stories have existed for centuries. Others suggest it may be a duende, a folkloric being often linked to natural environments in South America. There are also those who think it could be something even stranger, a being briefly slipping through from another dimension, visible only for seconds before disappearing. Skeptics argue shadows, water flow, or camera artifacts. But what makes this clip unsettling is how distinct the figure appears and how deliberately it seems to move. So what do you think this really was? A ghost tied to the land? A jinn drawn to the water? A duende watching from the falls? Or something else entirely? Now, this next video was recorded by a man who's slowly running out of explanations. For weeks, his young son has been insisting that there's someone in the house with them. At first, it was easy to dismiss. A child's imagination, shadows on the wall, toys left in the wrong place. The father brushed it off, telling his son that whatever he thought he was seeing was all in his head. But the claims didn't stop. The boy started talking to empty corners of the room. He'd pause mid-play, stare, and wave as if someone had just passed by. Sometimes he'd laugh, other times he'd go completely quiet, listening to something only he could hear. One night, just as they were about to go to sleep, the boy became visibly unsettled. Have a look.
कहाँ बैठा है कौन बैठा है यही मैं बाहर चला गया कौन है कौन ये कैसा दिखता है इसको बुलाओ इधर बुलाओ इसको बुलाओ इसको कहाँ क्या है यहाँ पे कुछ भी तो नहीं है क्यों अर्थ कर रहा है मैंने अकेले सोना होता है मतलब बुलाओ इसको इससे बात करें इसको बुलाओ उसको मुझे बात करनी है तुमसे है लड़की है लड़का है ये जिससे बात कर रहे हो ये लड़की है कि लड़का है
Watching the footage back, the father still wasn't sure what to make of it. He couldn't see anything obvious, so he shared the video online, hoping that maybe someone else would notice what he couldn't. Because at this point, the situation was starting to bother him, not just because of what his son claimed to see, but because of how consistent those claims had become. Many people say you should never tell a child they're lying when they insist they see something, especially when their fear doesn't fade and their reactions don't change. Some believe children are more sensitive to things adults no longer notice. So what do you see in the video? And more importantly, how should he handle it the next time his son says he's still here? In November 2019, a young man decided to explore an abandoned 22-story building and livestream the experience. At first, everything felt routine. Dark hallways, peeling paint, the usual eerie silence that comes with places long forgotten. But things changed when he reached the 10th floor. As he angled his camera down the stairwell for just a moment, it looked like someone dressed in black was moving up the stairs toward him. Not walking, but climbing at an unnaturally fast pace. Have a look. At first glance, you might think it's just another person, but based on the distance covered in about 7 seconds, that's an extreme speed. Even trained athletes would struggle to move that fast in a confined stairwell. And then there's the sound. As the figure approaches, a low, aggressive growling can be heard in the audio. Later, people claim that his phone was found higher up the stairwell, still recording, even though the man himself was nowhere nearby. Eventually, he was confirmed to be physically safe, but according to those who spoke with him afterward, he was too shaken to give a clear explanation of what happened inside that building. So, what do you think really happened? A terrifying misunderstanding or something far worse? Let me know your thoughts on this one. In this next video, Kyle, someone who's already dealt with one strange incident after another, is still trying to figure out what, if anything, connects all of it. Just when things seemed to calm down and the activity finally stopped, a new puzzle surfaced. Listen closely.
Listen to this and tell me if you hear a kid running around inside my attic. You hear that? Things have been quiet for like weeks now, and then all of a sudden it's just a ruckus in the attic, like constant. Listen. Isn't that wild? It sounds like a kid is running around up there. And I promise I do not have a child in my attic. It's just crazy. Yeah, things have been really quiet lately. I thought maybe it had all stopped. That's why I haven't been posting. But I guess we're back with a vengeance in 2026.
What makes this unsettling is how much it sounds like children running back and forth inside his attic. What makes it worse is the timing. Kyle says he'd finally had several quiet days. No disturbances, no strange sounds, nothing to suggest whatever had been bothering him was still around. He started to believe the activity had passed, that maybe it really was over. And then this happens. Some believe that when things go quiet, it isn't because whatever's there is gone, but because it's waiting. Others speculate that attic spaces often act as focal points, places where sounds manifest more clearly, or where something chooses to stay out of sight. Kyle is hoping this was a one-off incident, but after everything he's already experienced, it's not something he's willing to bet on. Now, in this next clip, Nate is home alone when he notices something peeking out from his basement. At first, it's subtle, easy to dismiss as shadows or his eyes playing tricks on him. But the feeling sticks with him long enough that he decides to grab his camera and record. This is what he captured.
Guys, check it out. Something was peeking. Right out. From the basement. I wanted to see if we can catch it. The end of it. But it was like right by the bed. What the fuck?
This has been the third morning in a row. Like clockwork. I might have to look back, but it might be around the same times as well. I don't understand. There's nothing. And then I was hearing steps coming down those stairs, but there's nothing. Guys. I don't know, guys. Maybe we can try. What? What's that?
Forget whatever was peeking out for a moment. What immediately unsettles viewers is the whispering. Some people claim they can make out words, while others say it's just incoherent murmuring. What makes this harder to ignore is that Nate says the peeking hadn't been a one-time thing. He claims it's been happening almost every morning for several days, always from the same spot. But one night, Nate is home watching a game when he notices the peeking again. This time, it didn't just peek. Watch closely.
Alright guys, please tell me you saw. Whatever keeps peeking out from there. Did it? I'm literally just sitting here watching the game. Wife will be home in about a half hour, so I was just waiting with the pup. And I saw. Nothing. Nothing, like always. Never anything. Nothing down there. Just bags of returnables. And hoodies. What the okay. At least it's not a knife, I guess. Jesus Christ.
Now objects are being thrown. The energy feels different, more aggressive, more urgent. But once again, what disturbs people the most is the whispering. Viewers who compared both clips say it sounds like the same voice from the first video. There's a theory circulating online that whatever is in the house may be the spirit of a woman, something trapped, unable to move on, attempting to communicate the only way it knows how. Some believe the whispers aren't meant to frighten, but to get attention. Others strongly disagree, arguing that throwing objects and hiding in shadows isn't a cry for help. It's a warning. But until Nate provides more updates, there's no way to know which interpretation is right. So for now, this case remains unsolved. In the following video, a man believes he's dealing with a mimic, and according to him, whatever it is seems to be getting bolder every time it appears. He says the hardest part isn't just hearing the voices, it's when it chooses to act. Around 3 a.m., watch what happened. This time, the voice sounds exactly like his mother. After this clip surfaced, one question kept coming up again and again, and you may have noticed the pattern too. Why do mimics almost always ask to be let in? Folklore across multiple cultures shares the same idea. Mimics, whether they're thought to be spirits, entities, or something else entirely, aren't believed to have free access. Instead, they rely on invitation. Asking to be let in isn't about manners, it's about permission. Once acknowledged, responded to, or welcomed, they're believed to gain stronger influence, sometimes attaching themselves to a place, a person, or both. That's why the voices often sound familiar, trusted, and safe. Because the goal isn't fear, it's consent. As for how people claim to deal with mimics, opinions are split. Some believe the worst thing you can do is respond at all. No talking back, no opening doors, no acknowledging the voice. Others suggest grounding the space by keeping lights on, removing reflective surfaces near doors, or placing physical barriers like salt lines or iron objects, believed in folklore to disrupt whatever is trying to cross over. But many say confrontation is the solution. So the question is, would you open the door or stay silent and hope it goes away? Either way, this is one encounter most people hope they never experience. Now in this next clip, popular Midwest ghost hunter Ian continues his solo investigation at the infamous Squirrel Cage Jail, officially known as the Pottawatomie County Jail in Iowa. This time, his final stop is one of the most unsettling locations in the entire building, Jake Bird's cell. Jake Bird was a convicted serial killer, often referred to as the Bluebeard of Tacoma, and is surrounded by one of the darkest reputations tied to this jail. What makes his story even more disturbing is the so-called Jake Bird curse, a legend claiming that several officials connected to his trial and execution later suffered sudden deaths or misfortune. When Ian steps into Jake Bird's cell, the first thing that immediately stands out is Jake's axe, displayed nearby. According to local history and long-standing accounts, an axe like this was linked to Jake Bird's crimes and is now kept as a reminder of the brutality tied to his name. To see if Jake Bird's presence still lingers, Ian decides to conduct a spirit box session inside the cell. Watch closely.
Are you here with me? Said summon. I heard summon. Who am I speaking with? Jake Bird. Jake Bird. It just said Jake Bird. That was so clear.
Not long after the session, Ian starts feeling unwell. But before he could leave, something else happened. Watch.
I'm starting to feel really lightheaded. Out of it. And I'm feeling really nauseous too.
Oh, holy f***. I swear to God, I just see the shadow. It went into the bunk bed where the axe is. Oh God, I really don't want to go back in there. I'm sorry if I offended you, Jake Bird. I didn't mean to. I'm just gonna retrieve my spirit box. Don't mind me. Oh God. I don't want to be in that cell anymore.
At that moment, Ian didn't hesitate. He ends the session and leaves the area entirely. For more haunting videos including Ian, subscribe to the channel now. The following video dates back to 2016. When a lady was 9 years old, spending time at home with her cousin, doing what most kids do, playing around, recording random moments, and not thinking too much about what might be happening in the background. Years later, after strange things in the house began to resurface, unexplained sounds, subtle movements, and that persistent feeling that something wasn't quite right, she decided to go back and review old footage, hoping they might have missed something back then. And that's when she found this. Watch closely.
Dude, what the heck, man? Who are you? Hello? What was that? Did you guys see that? Vines. Come on. Come here. Hello from the other side. Walking really funny. At least I got that on camera. Bye.
First, an unusual light appears. It's brief, easy to miss, but clearly there. And then, something else. A figure. When she reviewed the clip again as an adult, she said the shape looked like a baby figure. Small, low to the ground, and oddly formed. But once the video was shared, people had very different interpretations. Some were convinced it didn't look like a child at all. They believed it looked like a demonic figure. Others made a different comparison entirely, saying it resembled Pennywise. For context, Pennywise is a fictional entity from It by Stephen King, often portrayed as a shape-shifting being that commonly appears as a clown to lure children, but is actually something far more sinister beneath the surface. It's known for taking forms that feel familiar, yet deeply unsettling. And that comparison only made the clip more disturbing for viewers, because if something in that video really did resemble a child, then it becomes harder to explain. In this next video, a bus driver who had been working late shifts for years shares something that completely changed the way he viewed those quiet, empty routes at night, especially because he was used to long hours, isolated roads, and the kind of silence that most people would already find unsettling, yet had never experienced anything he couldn't logically explain until this particular night. After completing his final stop, he did what he always does, checking through his rearview mirror carefully to make sure every passenger had gotten off, scanning each row from front to back until he was certain the bus was completely empty. And once he confirmed there was no one left, he began the drive back to the station, already thinking about heading home to his family after a long day. For a while, everything felt normal. The road quiet, the bus steady, nothing out of place. And then, this happened. Watch. While he is driving, with absolutely no passengers on board, a voice suddenly echoes from inside the bus, loud enough to be clearly heard, saying, "I'm getting off here." But when he checks again, there is no one there. Some believe this could be a case where a past moment somehow imprints itself onto a place and replays under certain conditions, especially in environments like buses that carry countless people and experiences over time. But until more clips are shared, this one remains unsolved. Now, this next video was recorded by David, a name some of you might already recognize, especially if you've been following the channel for a while. For those who don't know, David once brought home a doll, something that seemed harmless at first, maybe even interesting because of its age and appearance, but not long after, he realized it was the biggest mistake of his life. His nights became restless, filled with strange figures appearing in his room, fleeting shapes that never stayed long enough to fully understand, and a voice that would wail in the dark, sometimes calling out different names, none of which he recognized. It got so intense that he eventually locked the doll inside a cage, placing a Bible and rosary on top of it, hoping it would contain whatever was attached to it. But even that didn't stop it. One night, after falling asleep, he had a nightmare so vivid it forced him awake. And when he opened his eyes, he saw this. Watch.
Tenía una pesadilla y despierto. ¿Por qué me estás jodiendo a cada rato? ¿Qué quieres? No entiendo qué es lo que... Ese, el quemado. Ese. Y no sé si escucharon lo que... No entendí muy bien. Pero... algo se escuchó. ¡Ah! Ahora sí sentí mucha adrenalina. Se desenfoca. No sé qué gana. Estoy escuchando música aquí de relajamiento. O sea, estaba durmiendo. Ya son las, ¿qué? 4:51 de la mañana. No entiendo. No entiendo. En serio, ya no sé qué hacer. Alexa, luz del cuarto blanco frío. Joder.
According to David, this isn't something he's seen once. He claims that same face appears to him almost every night, but the moment he switches on the light, it's gone. No movement toward the door, no sound of footsteps, and no space under the bed large enough for anything to hide. Now, did the doll bring something into his life? Or did it simply reveal something that was already waiting? You decide. The following video was recorded by a CCTV camera inside a man's home, capturing something that only came to his attention after he'd already left the house for the evening. He had stepped out briefly with his nephew, who was visiting for the holidays, and everything seemed completely normal at the time. The house locked, quiet, and empty, just the way he left it. But on their way back, he received a notification from his security system, the kind that usually signals movement or unexpected activity inside the house. At first, he assumed it was nothing serious, maybe a minor glitch or something small triggering the sensor, but when he opened the footage to check, he saw this.
D. Front. Door. Center. Center is open. Disarm now. Disarm now.
After he shared the video, a lot of people were quick to dismiss it, suggesting that someone must have been inside the house, that the whole thing was staged, or that it was simply a person checking the room before entering. But that explanation raises its own questions, because if it were a person, why do the eyes reflect like that? I'll let you be the judge on this. In this next clip, a man shares an experience that began in the most ordinary way. Something as simple as going downstairs in the middle of the night to get a glass of water, a routine that should have taken only a few minutes, quiet, uneventful, and easily forgotten by morning. But as he made his way through the house, he started hearing something unusual. A voice, faint at first, almost blending into the silence, but clear enough that he knew it wasn't just his imagination. It didn't sound like a television or a phone left playing somewhere, and it definitely didn't sound like something coming from outside. It sounded inside the house. Curious, but uneasy, he decided to trace where it was coming from, slowly moving toward the direction of the sound, trying to make sense of it. And then, he saw a strange figure. Startled, he immediately ran back upstairs, his first instinct not just to get away, but to record it, especially because he had already brought in someone to bless the house before moving in, sensing from the beginning that something about the place didn't feel right. Watch closely.
Entonces pues sí me despertaron y me dio sed.
Entonces bajé por un vaso de agua y me regresé corriendo. Quiero que vean esto. A ver si todavía está ahí. Es que siempre que les quiero mostrar algo, parece que desaparece para hacerme quedar mal. No, sí, sigue ahí. No sé si se esté viendo. Hay algo ahí parado. Y está altísimo. No sé qué es. Perdón con la luz, es que mi perro se está atravesando. Y si lo suelto, va y le ladra y me da miedo que vaya a pasar algo. Ay Dios, ahí se ve mejor, pero se ve más feo. Ya, deja de moverte. Perdónenme. ¿Hola? ¿Hola?
Some believe it could be tied to the house itself, something that was already there long before he moved in, and that the blessing may not have fully removed whatever presence remains. There's also the idea that shadows like this are not just random appearances, but deliberate observations, something watching, learning the layout, understanding the person living there. Until more updates are shared, this one remains unsolved. Now, this next clip was recorded by a family's security system, something they originally installed both inside and outside the house for a very practical reason. They foster dogs, and with multiple animals moving in and out over time, they needed a reliable way to monitor activity, keep track of movement, and make sure everything stayed under control, even when they weren't actively watching. For a long time, the cameras only ever captured what they expected. Dogs wandering around, the usual sounds of a busy home, nothing out of the ordinary. But over the past month, something else started appearing, something that doesn't move like a dog and doesn't resemble any adult living in the house either. Have a look.
Alright, so break it down again. Where is it? There's the arm.
Arm, leg. There's gonna be another leg walking here.
You see it go over the snow.
Arm, leg, then another leg.
So if that's a leg, what's that? Is that the baby with somebody?
At the moment, they don't believe it's anything dangerous. In their view, with the number of dogs constantly in the house, any real threat, especially something physical, would have triggered a reaction. Dogs are known for their sensitivity to unfamiliar presence, and if something was truly there, they assume the animals would have barked, reacted, or shown signs of distress. But that assumption is exactly what unsettles some viewers. Some theories suggest that certain entities don't register as physical threats, meaning they can exist within a space without triggering the usual instincts in animals. Others believe that if something is subtle enough, it can move through an environment without drawing attention. And then there's a more unsettling possibility that whatever the camera is picking up is already familiar with the space. Familiar enough not to disturb the dogs, and familiar enough to move without being challenged. What do you think about this? Or are there some other reasons we're not seeing? The following video was captured by a CCTV camera at Ronald's workplace, a location that, according to several employees, had already been the subject of quiet conversations long before this footage ever surfaced, with workers occasionally mentioning glimpses of black shapes passing through hallways, reflections that didn't match anyone present, and that lingering feeling of being watched even in areas covered by cameras. But it wasn't until this clip went viral that those concerns became impossible to ignore, with many employees reportedly pressuring management to take action, convinced that whatever had been dismissed as imagination was now clearly visible on camera. Watch closely.
Ayan, paakit na ako, doon. Punta na ako doon. Sa baba ako dumaan eh. Nakalaki nga yung bukas na. Sasara niya ng bigla yan, kasi nga doon ba? Ang dala yung mga sakit na yan. Ito yung sa... Ano kami yun? Ay nako, kita mo ako paano sa maril dito? Ay, hindi. Apakahiwaga. Ay, kapal niya na. Okay, ang lakas nun sa kanya, no?
Dark shapes move through the space, and some viewers believe it's actually one shadow, moving so quickly and unpredictably that it creates the illusion of multiple figures. Others are convinced it's something far more unsettling, that these are multiple shadows, different entities moving within the same space, overlapping, crossing paths, each one existing independently. You be the judge. The following video is about Nate, someone many viewers already recognize for the strange and often unsettling activity that seems to follow him wherever he goes. Over time, people began pointing something out to him, that he might be giving whatever it is too much attention, and that constantly reacting to it could actually be making things worse. So he decided to try something different. He started ignoring it. No reactions, no engagement, just going about his day like nothing was there. But that didn't last long because one morning, this happened. Watch.
Alright. So you people tell me to ignore things, so... Tell me what the fuck that is. I have... things going on in here and in the bathroom right above me, or some upstairs above me at the same time. But, you know, I'll just ignore it. And it's not as simple as people think. Unless people experience these things, then it's not as easy as just ignoring it when the shit happens to you. I'm working on it.
Once again, you can hear faint whispers in the background, unclear but definitely there. And what makes this moment even more unsettling is that just seconds before he started recording, the cabinet where the cup falls from was completely closed. Moments like this are why many believe that attention plays a role in these situations. Some say that reacting to activity can strengthen whatever is causing it, almost like feeding it energy, but others argue the opposite, that ignoring it doesn't make it go away, it just makes it find other, more aggressive ways to be noticed. And for Nate, it doesn't stop at home, because as much as he deals with this inside his house, his workplace isn't any different. Watch this.
All right. Good morning, ghosts. Happy Friday to you guys too. I don't really see anything out of place or kind. Everything looks. Oh. I could feel that. I could feel that. Did I offend you by saying good morning? That's different. All right. I take back the good morning then. Oh, okay. We're gonna do this now. All right. I take back good morning then. Jesus Christ. Well, now the knocking on the walls has started once again. Just figure out, turn the camera on and see if I can catch it, because I mean it was every wall. Like, and it's inside because when it did it on this wall, this and the chains were slightly swaying. So that tells me I wish I can understand what whatever this is wanted.
At the cemetery where he works, something can be heard banging against the walls of the garage over and over again. Not random noises, but heavy, deliberate impacts, like something trying to get his attention from the other side. Some believe this could be tied to the environment itself. Cemeteries are often associated with residual energy, places where emotions, grief, and history linger. Others think it could be something more direct, something that may have attached itself to Nate, following him between locations. And then there's one of the strangest things he's come across at work. Watch.
We have this morning. Just one. No other ones. Just one single claw print or weird handprint. Fingers are super long. They look a little sharp on the edge, like small scratches underneath. And there is it's almost like it was jumping up there, but I don't see anything.
On the floor, there's a deep claw-like marks. Just one, as if something appeared, dragged across the surface once, and vanished. Some viewers even claimed to hear whispers toward the end of the clip, though no one could clearly make out what was being said. So what could leave a mark like that? This one remains unsolved. In this next video, a father shares an experience that completely changed the way he sees his own home. For some time, there had been small things he couldn't fully explain, moments where he thought he heard movement late at night, or faint sounds coming from parts of the house that should have been empty. Nothing too obvious, just enough to make him uneasy, but not enough to convince himself something was wrong, until one night, he suddenly woke up to the sound of his son crying, not a soft whimper, but the kind of crying that makes you get up immediately. Without thinking twice, he rushed out of his room to check on him, but something didn't feel right, so he decided to check the camera. Watch closely.
No. Good. No.
You can hear it clearly, a child crying, but then something else happens. A figure moves past, and for a brief moment, it looks like the shape of a child. Yet, something about it feels off. The movement isn't natural, the timing doesn't match the crying, and the presence itself feels separate from the sound. And this is where things start to get really disturbing. Because when he finally checked on his son was fine. Not crying, not awake, just sleeping. Which raises a terrifying possibility. Some viewers believe this could be a case of something imitating familiar sounds to draw attention, possibly to lure someone out of their room. It's a theory often mentioned in cases where voices or cries are heard, but don't match any real person in the house. Others think it could be a shadow figure manifesting briefly, using sound and movement together to make its presence known. But whatever it was, it knew exactly what would get his attention. So if that wasn't his son crying, then what was it? I'll let you be the judge. Now, in this next clip, Isaac, the man living in that old property with 2 haunted sheds, a place already known for strange activity that seems to grow worse over time, shares an update on his current situation. On this particular day, Isaac was doing a live stream, going about things normally, when a strange sound suddenly caught his attention. It wasn't loud, but it was enough to make him stop mid-sentence and go check it out. Watch this.
Y'all heard it too? Y'all heard it too? Because I know I heard something. I know I'm not going crazy. I'm standing right here with y'all. I'm standing right here with y'all. My hands. My hands. I'm standing right here with y'all. Just burn the whole house at this point. I can't, they ain't got nowhere to live. Oh. Ah. Ooh. Ow. Oh. Hit my leg. I hit my knee so bad. Oh my God, that hurt. Oh.
Isaac had previously explained that this room used to belong to the grandfather who owned the land, and according to family members, he always preferred warm temperatures. It was something very specific about him, something only people close to him would know. And just to rule out any easy explanations, Isaac made it clear during the live stream that the other remote was in the living room, and the remotes don't control each other, something he had tested before when he once misplaced one of them. So if no one was in the room, and no remote was being used, then what turned it on? Some viewers believe this could be the grandfather's presence, something familiar, almost routine, repeating what he used to do when he was alive. But others aren't so convinced, because what happens next changes the tone completely. Tired of everything happening around him, Isaac eventually decided to bless the house, and for a few days, things were quiet. Almost too quiet, until this happened. Watch.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Like I said, I've left the living room and I've officially moved into the bedroom now, and it's... What the hell? Well, well, I was gonna say, that it's been pretty calm all day. Somebody did ask me if they blessed the sheds, and the answer is no. They actually didn't. For some reason, my landlord was pretty adamant about leaving the sheds alone. We did the furthest one where the memorial is, but the one near the house and the one with the car in it, she was absolutely adamant that that would not be blessed, that would not be touched, and so we didn't touch it. I didn't ask any questions. Her reaction wasn't like mean or anything. She was just like, yeah, I don't like that's not a good idea. Almost kind of like, nah, just leave it alone type of thing. So, I mean, other than that, it's been a really good day. It's been a really damn good day, to be perfectly honest with you. Why are my windows so foggy? Look at this. Look how foggy my windows are. Look, these two. Can you even see it? I don't even know if you can see it. It's like mad condensation. Why is there so much condensation on my flipping window? I didn't run. Yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say, to be perfectly honest with you, but guess I'll go ahead and finish getting ready for work. Watching Wicked while I get dressed. Alright, talk to you later.
A door suddenly closes on its own, the light shuts off, and for those listening closely with headphones, some claim they can hear a faint voice saying, "Go away," And that's what really unsettled people. Because if that voice is real, then whatever is there doesn't just exist, it has intent. Some viewers believe this might be a reaction to the blessing itself. There's a theory that if a space is only partially cleansed, whatever is there can simply move to the uncleansed areas. And in Isaac's case, that would be the sheds. And there's another layer to this. Isaac mentioned he wasn't allowed to cleanse the sheds, which raises a disturbing possibility. If something is tied to those sheds, and you cleanse only the house, then you're not removing it, you're cornering it. And according to many who study these cases, that can make whatever's there more aggressive. So now the question is, was that the grandfather making his presence known? Or was it something else entirely? Something that doesn't want Isaac on that property anymore? You decide. In the following video, a man named Moses and his family were on their way home one evening when his daughter insisted they stop by a small playground near their house. It was a simple request, just a few minutes to play before heading in. Reluctantly, he agreed. The kid played, laughed, and enjoyed the quiet moment. But as time passed, something about the place began to feel off. The kind of uneasiness you can't explain, like being watched without seeing anyone. Then, just as they were about to leave, Moses saw it clearly. Someone was there, hiding. He turned his camera toward a nearby tree and started calling out, asking whoever was there to show themselves. And then, it did. Watch.
No te vas a golpear la resbaladilla cuando te bajes. ¿Me bajo? Sí. Ah. ¡Ey, Nana! Mira, espérate. Nana, ven. Vénganse para acá. Mira, cheque, a ver, miren el árbol aquel. No, yo, la neta, te lo juro que yo miraba algo. Como que se asomaba. A ver, venga. ¿Eh? No, es que yo miré algo, neta. No pasa nada. No, mi amor, no pasa nada, ven. No era nada, ven. ¿Qué? ¿Qué es? No sé, no. Irga, sí se miró. ¡Ey! ¿Quién está ahí? Yo sí miré, alcancé a ver algo. Mira, ¿te checaste? ¿Viste? A ver. Oh, mira.
¿Qué es eso? Ay, no.
¡Hey! ¡Lujo! ¡Asómate!
Something peeks from behind the tree, not once, but twice, just enough to confirm that they weren't alone. At that moment, the family didn't wait to find out more. They quickly left, trying to brush it off with nervous laughter as they walked away. But after posting the video, the comments made things worse. People began sharing their own experiences about that same playground, especially after sunset. Some claimed they had seen figures standing near the trees, watching silently until noticed. Others described hearing footsteps behind them with no one there, or catching glimpses of something ducking out of sight the moment they turned to look. A few even said the place feels completely normal during the day, but changes the moment it starts getting dark, as if something else uses that space when no one is supposed to be there. So what was hiding behind that tree? For now, this one remains a mystery. In this next video, Chris and his wife are trying to finally settle an argument that's been going on for a long time. Both of them have been experiencing strange things in their home, but they don't agree on what's causing it. Chris leans toward logical explanations, faulty wiring, loose fixtures, anything that can be explained. His wife, on the other hand, believes there's something else in the house, something they can't see but can definitely feel. So to settle it once and for all, they installed cameras everywhere. One night, while they were asleep, the cameras caught this. Watch. The stove turns on by itself, as if someone physically turned it on. Up until this point, many viewers believe the activity in their home might be tied to something harmless, possibly even a child's spirit, especially based on earlier clips where objects were lightly moved or knocked over. But after seeing this, people started to think differently, because this isn't just movement, this is dangerous, something that could have easily caused a fire. And that's why some believe this might not be something playful or harmless anymore, but something more aggressive, something with intent. And for a while, all the activity seemed to center around one place, the kitchen. Take a look at this. This doesn't look like it slipped, looks like something deliberately pushed it. According to Chris, this has become part of their daily routine. They go to bed with everything in place and wake up to the kitchen in complete disarray, cabinets disturbed, items out of place, forcing them to clean up every single morning. At this point, it's no longer about whether something is happening, it's about what is doing it and why the kitchen. What do you think?